Doctor, look.
Stand aside, nurse. I'm Dr. Homebrew.
Stand clear.
Hey, welcome everybody. It's time for another episode of Dr. Homebrew. But only this time we don't have any homebrew. This is Dr. Mead Brew or something. I don't know. We decided to switch it up a little bit, and we're going to do a whole show dedicated to mead. Brian Cooper here, my stalwart and svelte co-host, recently became a mead judge. Brian Cooper, is that correct?
Yes, I sure did. I took the exam on Saturday, and our buddy Harendu kind of twisted my arm. I had thought about doing it several times before, and just never studied for it. If I'm going to do it, I want to do well. I've been a judge for a long time, but
this is what judges do. This is what the homebrew judge community is. They're arm twisters. Yeah. It's like, oh no, come in. You could just be a recognized beer judge. We need wine judges and mead judges, and you're never leaving. That's exactly what it is.
You get alcoholic beverages. Come on, join us.
Yeah. So okay, well that's cool. Well, so we're going to talk about that, of course, because mead judging, mead is growing in popularity, and I think the mead judge community needs to be supported a little bit more. We need some more mead judges, as well as, like I said, every other thing that you can judge. We need more people to do it constantly, but mead and ciders, I think, are those two that we really need some attention to. So we're going to be drinking two meads here tonight. Both from our good friend Michael Fairbrother at Moonlight Meadery in New Hampshire. Michael, welcome back for like the millionth time to this show.
Oh, my pleasure.
Or to the network. Well, yeah, it's your pleasure because we actually bought these meads. You didn't have to ship them to us, so it's like.
Yeah, I was a little worried when I got the notice to ask to be on the show. I'm like, shit, how am I going to get this stuff there so quick?
Yeah, no, we decided not
you don't
cheap
mind
out.
paying like $300 for express first overnight for these, right?
Yeah.
I've been known to do such crazy things, but yeah.
This is true, but we let you off the hook. So thanks for joining us last minute. I appreciate it. I think it'll be great. And then with, of course, Brian and John, or Brian and Brian is John. And John, you took the mead course with Brian, correct?
We did, unfortunately, together.
Okay, so it's
right next to each other. Yeah.
All right, that's good.
But actually, it was very appropriate because the first BJCP class I took was in Brian's old apartment with him.
Okay.
We took the whole class together to get where we are today as beer judges.
That's what he told you? It was a class? It's a judge class, man. But there's no one here, Brian. I know, but it's...
Come over and drink beer.
It's just you and me.
Twist his arm to have him join me in the endeavor here.
Hey,
and,
we had the not then Master Cicerone also in that class with us. Don't forget.
Oh,
for sure.
Who's that?
Miss Nicole Ernie.
Oh,
in that brew, yeah, the first judging class. Yeah.
Wow, that's cool. Look at that.
That was a
claim to fame.
Who's who of everything.
Nice.
Yeah, basically, we got to get Nicole back on the show, honestly. And do some off flavor stuff, or I don't know, whatever. But
you can tell us all about crisp lemony zip.
That's right. Before we get to that, of course, we want to thank our sponsor, 5-Star. You go to 5starchemicals.com right now and learn about the best ways to clean and sanitize your home brewing equipment, which is, of course, with using 5-Star Chemicals. Star San and PBW are the stalwarts. They have a bunch of other ones too. So I know I harp on Star San and PBW because those are the ones that I really know and use constantly. I mean, I clean a lot of kitchen equipment, my house equipment. It's like, sounds like I have like a, full size professional kitchen, but I dabble in stainless things. I don't know, whatever. Anyway, it's great for cleaning all sorts of stuff too, not just your home brewing equipment, but that's really what we want to emphasize is you clean and then you sanitize. You can't sanitize and clean at the same time. It just doesn't really work out as well as doing both. And the best people to do that with are 5-Star Chemicals. You can do that. Before we get into the meads, of course, as I open, which one did you say? The Fling?
Yes.
Michael? All right. Before we get into that, if you want to be on the show and you don't have a successful meadery on the East Coast, you can submit a beer or a cider or a mead or a wine or anything to Brian at thebrewingnetwork.com. And I'm really just killing time because I'm trying to get this somehow I managed. So first of all, Michael, I think I've said before, God bless you for not wax dipping your bottles. I still don't know why people wax dip, but I somehow managed to still ruin the heat shrink enclosure. I pulled the tab off. I'm too strong, so I'm battling with this right now. But anyway, yeah. So email Brian@thebrewingnetwork.com, and we'll get you started up on the show. We'll get you on here, and we'll do our fun stuff. So anyway, Michael,
careful with those corks.
Yeah, I know,
they're
right?
in there.
Oh, they're in there. All right. All right, Michael. So, geez, they are in there. Damn. I bet Michael hand corked these.
No problem.
They're in there, man. There we go.
About 3 million bottles sold so far.
Each one
No shit.
hand corked by Michael Fairbrother himself.
Not too much anymore, but it used to be the case. If you want something hand corked for me, you want my Utopian, which is our 10-year barrel aged in Samuel Adams Utopias barrels.
That's the baby.
Wow.
That gets the leader's touch from start to finish. Huh?
It's an embossed label. It's got a, hate to say it, wax dip top.
Oh, you prick. I knew it. I knew you'd do it to me at some point.
But this mead we're going to try is a strawberry rhubarb. It's made with orange blossom. It has the base honey for it. So it's going to be a semi-sweet. It's got a nice light pink hue to it. So one of the first things a mead judge wants to look at and think about when they put a mead in a glass is the color, the clarity. It should be crystal clear. You want to nose the mead, so take a sniff of the aroma. Here I'm getting fresh strawberries, tartness, clean overall impression, fruity notes. Honey is not as floral as some meads can be, but we're trying to go for the harmony of the beverage. So we're looking for the totality, right?
Yeah.
So how does it all pull together? Because I want to, above all, I don't want people to think, oh my God, it's a honey drink. I want them to think, oh my God, it's delicious, and buy another one and buy another one.
Yeah, I imagine it's almost you don't want them to concentrate on like the base beverage. Treat it like a wine or just it's a drink.
Yeah, one of the things I've had in the past is think about sausages. Right, you don't want to necessarily think about what goes into a sausage. You want the sausage to taste good.
Right. Well, and that's why we're going through with these meads from you, and you're kind enough to sort of lead us through sort of like a mead judging. And Brian and John, you guys can jump in at any point too and talk about how the points that Michael is mentioning are reflective of the mead score sheet, and we can just sort of talk about that. But this is our hardcore mead introduction to the show, like Brian was saying, if we're going to do it, we're going to half-ass it. Or something like that. You said something like that. I don't know.
Yeah, we want to bring on more beverages and different things, and we always say, send us your mead, wine, sake, whatever, what have you. And now, John and I have been judges for about 1/1000th of the amount of time Michael has. You're probably one of the first ones, I think, right?
I would bet. Yeah,
I'm just clearing 200 points now on the BJCP score sheets.
Now, is mead something that needs to open up like wine?
It's not quite as some, yes. Okay. So there's so much diversity to what can be out there. This one is actually pretty young. I think we've bottled it in the last 6 months, so it's got a lot of depth of character. The flavor, the rhubarb adds a lot of crisp tartness to give the presentation of a semi-sweet. You get some sweetness on the edges, but you get that deep tartness to balance that strawberry sweetness. And what holds it all together is that orange blossom honey, which has that nice floral note to it to kind of make it presentable. Like I've had this with like a triple cream brie, and it's just, the pairing for like the creaminess of a cheese versus the tartness of this, the rhubarb and the strawberry mead, really kind of pulled together nicely.
Okay. Like cut through the fat. Is there a glassware concern that we should be dealing with too? Because I just have these like straight walled 10-ounce, taster glasses.
Yeah. Me too.
Yeah, those work. We typically recommend a smaller pour, like a 3-ounce to 4-ounce pour.
Yeah, I probably got 2 fingers in here, so I'm
you're doing fine.
But shape doesn't matter as much.
I prefer a wine style glass, like our Moonlight Meadery glasses have this little tulip shape. It's a 6-ounce glass, but if you get a 4-ounce pour in there, the moon's submerged, and it gives people an option to share a bottle if they so choose to.
Yeah.
What about temperature, Michael? I had mine coming out of the beer fridge in the garage at 40, let it kind of come up to 40, 44, but I think it needs to be warmer.
So I typically like them at room temperature, but room temperature can vary depending on where you live. So here in New Hampshire, that's probably, for the most time, or cellar temperature about 55, 65 degrees. That way you can taste more, right? So the reason, some of the major beer companies mandate that their beer be served ice cold is they don't want you to taste as much, right? So, what we're trying to strive for is that again, that totality of the expression. Like as I've tasted this mead, and I'm thinking about and talking to you folks, what I'm tasting in the finish is that strawberry lingering tartness, some semi-sweet notes of honey coming through, but it really, there's a reason a number of my meads are the classic styles that all meads are judged against, and it's because we've spent freaking 20 some odd years, 27 years working to perfect my skills at how to make mead and how to make it so I can't even think about how to make it anymore. It's just, it's intuitive. It's like breathing.
Yeah. What style would this be? What style would the Fling strawberry rhubarb mead be?
This would be a melomel.
Melomel,
So,
okay.
Yeah, I'm using the term rhubarb as a fruit in this context, but some might think of it as more of a spice. But we typically enter it as a melomel category.
So somebody might argue this would be like a metheglin because it's like a spice vegetable?
It could be open category. So
experimental.
Fruit and spice.
What I find really interesting about the aroma is that definitely I get the strawberry and the rhubarb and the honey, and with the fruit, there's definitely, obviously esters get characterized as fruity, but I mean this in a good way. I get almost like an old ale type of aroma off of this, not with regard to the alcohol, but something that's maybe, and it's certainly not like I'm sticking my nose into a glass of old ale, but there's something that's maybe analogous to like a big beer that's well fermented, maybe more in like an English style where you have kind of that fruity English fermentation and some of the esters off of that. And I don't mean to sound like, hey, I'm calling your mead an old ale.
No, Brian, I understand what you mean. So you got to imagine, though, this mead you're trying is 14% alcohol. Yeah. So, this is a big boy, right? This is meant to be something you sip and savor, not chug at a party.
Yeah. Exactly. But I'm not getting like what's really fascinating about that is I'm not getting, in a 14% beer, you're typically going to get like, oh man, here's a big whiff of ethanol. But this is just so smooth and so integrated. I'm not sniffing like big ethanol notes or really any ethanol notes out of this.
Yeah, the key is fermentation temperature control. So we ferment at 68 degrees Fahrenheit, give it a 3-degree window of for shift, so it can go down as low as 64, as high as 71. And what that gives me is the opportunity to really keep the yeast where it's happy, and we use a staggered nutrient regime to achieve that. So we're feeding the yeast the first 3 days, the nutrients it needs for each generation, and that really gets you to a very happy place. Now, with a mead like this one, you got a pretty low pH, right? So this is like a 3.2, I think, final pH on this. So it's got that tartness that really kind of holds it all together, because you don't want your mead to be flabby, right? You don't want it to have this just rich, sweet sugar bomb that, you might want to take a sip, but you can't really enjoy it, right?
Like it's this so fun. I know everything he's talking about now.
Yes.
I know what flabby means. Flabby isn't just a goofy term you throw out there. It actually has a terminology in mead judging.
How would you describe that, John? On your test, how would you?
So as I understood it, flabby is when you typically on a sweet mead, right? So one that has a bigger mouthfeel. It's it's richer, it's a little more viscous in your mouth, and it's definitely more sweet, but it's just one note. It's just sweet, sweet, sweet. And that can come across as flabby. Is that roughly right, Michael?
Yeah, that's correct. So with this one, when you taste it, you feel the sides of your tongue pucker, right?
Mhm.
You feel it almost like a tongue depressor, at the back of your tongue. So that's the acidity just playing off of that sweetness to give you that total presentation. Now, I don't doctor this mead at all. We it's a pretty straightforward recipe. Half and half rhubarb and strawberry. We use concentrates because we want to maximize our potential for fermentation. And let's see if I can scale it back to homebrew size. Been a long time since I've done homebrewing. But it's basically for a 500-gallon batch, or let's say 1,000-gallon batch, we're using 50 pounds of strawberry concentrate and 50 gallons of strawberry, 50 gallons of rhubarb, and 1,800 pounds of orange blossom honey. Wow. So, divide that by 1,000, multiply it by 5, you get pretty much a homebrew scale system.
Oh,
wow.
So you don't do anything to balance, like you're not adding acids or tannins at the end to get that.
No.
It's just, the recipe's got those bits in it to make it all harmonious.
So I think in flavor. So it's kind of like, it's hard to describe when I used to write software for a career and think about how to write or solve problems. But I almost see the space as three-dimensional. And when I think about flavors, it's that same kind of three-dimensionality of thinking about how do I want all these pieces to work. So when I was 16, I wanted to be a chef, and I started working at a restaurant. And I realized it's really hot in the kitchen. I ain't going to make it in the kitchen. So a big boy like me, I need to find another career. So I went into computer science. And, it's just, I don't know what it is about mead and fermenting and the like, but I love the art of fermentation, right? So, whether it's beer, mead, or cider, my bankers are like, how the hell do you know how to do all three of these? I'm like, it's the same. Right. It's the same. Everything is so simple. It's like, how do you make mashed potatoes versus French fries, right? It's a potato, So, the world can't always see what we can see and what we can taste and how do we describe it. But what I see when people try my meads is the instant reaction and their eyes smile, right? So they light right up. And I mentioned it before, we sold 3 million bottles in the last, what is it now, 12 years? So 12 years in, and, we're now building this 100-acre farmstead up in middle of New Hampshire, just 13 miles from our state capital. And it's a 7,000 square foot house.
That's crazy.
That's my gift shop behind me. And we're putting in a wood-fired brick oven pizza. So I want to kind of go like the Pizza Port model and bring some high-class quality food to New Hampshire. And people always ask me, like, how does mead pair with food? Well, like this mead right here with a strawberry goat cheese salad is killer. It's all the same kind of elements. And that goat cheese and the rhubarb just tie it all together.
Oh man, goat cheese would be so good with this. I may at the break.
Ryan.
I know I might go check my fridge at the break to see if I don't think I have any goat cheese in there, but if I do, I'll be eating that after the break.
What kind of middle class homeowner are you?
Be good with this.
You don't have goat cheese.
Well, if you guys ever make it out to New Hampshire, I've got a 4-bedroom colonial house here that we can certainly host.
There you go. All the free goat cheese you
party.
Want. Yeah, that'd be fun. All right. Well, so that is a big help in sort of addressing the score sheet, Michael. So, we have the general flavors that we get from the mead, and we're tasting the mead also. But if we run through like the bouquet and the aroma, I don't know if you guys, Brian and John, did the checklist score sheet. That's the first thing that came up. I don't know.
We filled out actual written
ones. Okay.
Sheets. So, the bouquet, it asks for honey expression, alcohol, esters, complexity, and other aromatics as appropriate for style. So
the alcohol here is so hidden. It doesn't present in the aroma too
Sneaks
deeply.
up on you.
No, yeah, it really does. And I don't know if my mead was a little too cold, but now it's sitting here. It's a little cooler than room temp. It's, I would guess, 60 something, 65. And I get more of that honey expression in the aroma. So temperature really is a big deal when you're judging meads and trying to figure out if your own mead is any good.
Yeah, and if you're at a competition where the meads are being served ice cold, put them in a glass, warm them up in your hand to get it to that temperature where you can really appreciate it. Because, walk-in coolers at some of the breweries or places that might host a tasting or judging an event may not be able to get it to you at the right temperature. So you always have the opportunity to warm that glass up. You can't usually go the opposite direction where it's too warm and you're trying to figure out a way to chill it.
Yeah. If you want to cool it down, give it to my ex-wife. You know what I mean? So what about
one of the cool things? I just want to jump in on this because we're talking about the honey and the aroma.
Yes, sir.
As Brian and I were going through the study materials for the class, we studied, I think, 21 different varieties of honey that are in the guidelines for this.
Jeez.
And one of the really interesting things about honey is you'll have like basswood, apple blossom, orange blossom, blackberry blossom. And I think people, and I did this too when I first got in the class, I'm thinking, oh, blackberry honey, it's going to taste like blackberry.
Yep.
Almost none of the honey varieties taste like their namesake plants because they're it's nectar out of the flowers on the plant, which are all much more similar than the fruits of the plant. So floral is a super common thing, but there are some that have very interesting, characteristics. Like Brian, what was that one that's got the treacle and molasses? Was that Tupelo or buckwheat?
Buckwheat, and then and then you have meadow foam, which can express marshmallow or
cotton candy,
cotton candy or
That's
vanilla.
wild.
Yeah,
but for the most part, they're just more. I mean, you think of honey I think of it more as a floral note than a fruit note.
So my general rule of thumb is the lighter the color of the honey, the more approachable it is to most judges that want to judge a mead. The buckwheats or the heather honeys are really, really earthy. So the darker the honey, the higher the mineral content of that honey. And that can add, like our heather honey mead tastes more like honey than honey does. It's got this really, really honey flavor that is, you either like it or you hate it.
Oh, man.
There's not a middle ground on that one. But, and when I first started, we had Gordon Strong come out and he was tasting them. He goes, oh, just leave this alone because I'm ready to dump the whole batch. He goes, give it about 10 years. Well, 10 years later, we sold for $125 a bottle. So, yes, Gordon is correct. And, really a spot on knowledge base of what goes into, a particular honey. I used to always swear off buckwheat honey, but now I've got a few that we've made with buckwheat where it's a percentage of the combination. So I'm trying to figure out how to take the elements of that honey and apply it like a chef might apply some habaneros or some spices to a particular dish versus, oh, I'm just going to use all buckwheat. It can be.
It's an ingredient.
Yes.
Yeah. I remember the first, I think it was the only time I entered a mead, to your point, John, it was a competition. It was a watermelon honey. And I got shit on because it didn't taste like watermelon. And I'm like, you motherfuckers, what is going on here in the world? But, that was too long ago.
Sometimes too much information hurts you when you're entering into competitions.
Yes. Right.
And I've had mislabeled bottles go to a competition back when I was entering homebrew, and they're judging a raspberry mead as a blueberry mead, and I'm like, they're giving it great scores. I'm going, you got the wrong bottle.
Well, to that point, if you're entering a mead in a homebrew competition, whether do you enter the orange blossom? Do you enter the base honey, or do you just say regional honey because you don't want confusion, but maybe that's just expecting the judge to not know anything, and that's not very cool either. Like how do you present the base honey?
So it depends how generic your honey is and how, I just finished writing an article for Brew Your Own magazine about single varietal honeys and the complexity of the characteristics of those honeys. Mm-hmm. If you entered a orange blossom mead as just a generic wildflower and you get an experienced judge, they're going to tell, oh, will they dance? I doubt it. Really, what the judge's job should be to look for is how exemplary the quality of the fermented beverage is and how well does it taste and overall react. So, yeah, like I always harp on this, but I don't think about what goes into sausages when I try to eat a sausage. I think about, hey, is it any good taste or not? And that's kind of been my mantra for 12 years, and it's probably why we've done what we've done. It's because I think about all that. What's the expression? Because I make this stuff, I don't care that it's honey. I mean, the end consumer who buys everything I buy, whether it's at Total Wine & More or wherever they online at our shop or at one of my 2 locations, they're coming into. Sorry, JP, I got to throw the plugs in there.
Well, it's funny because I met Shard today to exchange the meads, and I'm like, $20. Says Michael's just going to be getting those sales pitches in. He goes, well, he's a successful businessman for a reason. I go, I know.
Sorry.
It's all right.
It's just, I didn't mention that we won Best of Show and Grand Champion at the San Diego International a couple years back.
Yeah, I did it.
Oh, really? Do tell.
I did it before you, though. So, it's all right. Just kidding.
I love that JP's watermelon mead was that, and this is the reason why Brian Cooper and I went into this. Is I've been invited to judge meads before, but I never felt comfortable. I want to know what the heck I'm talking about. Yeah. So if somebody puts a watermelon flower mead in front of me, I don't expect to taste watermelon.
Right. We've made mead together. We've learned in our club taught members of our club how to make mead, and I've won a couple of medals over the years, and it's a nice feeling when you do that. But it's just it's about sharing the knowledge.
We take this shit seriously, man.
That's true. And like
mead for the first time, I still remember the first time I tried mead. I was up in Seattle, and somebody just had some homemade mead in their fridge. I'm like, I'll try that. Sure. I was like,
I think JP and I met probably close to 20 years ago, and it was at one of the brewing. Well, it's been a while, but the American Homebrewers Conference or whatever it's now called, and the love of sharing a good mead and talking about that, it's
well, it's cool, and it's what binds the hobby together, across all fermentation disciplines. Is just the act of like communication and talking about what you're experiencing, and like that watermelon mead, the watermelon honey, I still remember it. Because it was from the supplier of our orange blossom honey when I worked at Moorbeer. And he's like, yeah, sometimes they get like carrot flower honey and just like whatever. And there's, it doesn't taste like carrots, but there is a flavor modification. Like the watermelon honey was lighter and brighter. Orange blossom honey to me is sort of medium flavor, dark, a little bit of darker, thing going on. But I don't know as a judge if you're expected to know that or comment on that, like if it's even, what are you going to ding someone because this mead is too light, but it's orange blossom honey? I don't know.
Not often. I mean, okay. I've judged a number of Best of Shows at the Mazer Cup International, and I'm flying over to Poland next week to judge at the Mead Madness Cup.
Wow.
So I mean,
drink lots of Grodzitskis for me.
It pretty much on every continent of the world at this point. And it's again, how evenly balanced and how presentable is this mead? You don't want to see a hazy mead. You don't want to see a mead that's just screaming fusel alcohols or is so sweet you're thinking, oh my God, give me a diabetic EpiPen.
Well, and like
for insulin shot.
For the the bouquet and the aroma, again, back to this is the hard part about talking. Mead is like the social lubricant. It really gets everyone going because everyone has a story about it. But just to rip that Band-Aid off and bring it back to the score sheet just a bit, the bouquet and the aroma, a lot of these are very common things, I guess. Like are there banana esters, and that's parallel to beer, but I don't really expect mead to have that. But things like complexity in the aroma, sweetness in the aroma, acidity in the aroma, balance, all those things you take into account. And then, how honey is it the honey of floral or perfumey, or is it spicy, or like these are the kinds of things that you want to be noting, at least according to, to this mead thing. I don't know. And you get some of that, like your mead right here. The fling does have a brightness. It does have an acidity in the aroma, sweetness a little bit, actually kind of a lot, obviously. But it's complex. It's a lot. I don't know. Judging mead would be really hard for me because it is almost like sensory overload, at least with this mead. There's a lot going on. And I think it would really also be hard to do this, 5 times in a row. When you have 14%, I could barely do it with IPAs.
Think about this mead though, JP. If he had backed that honey off and it was like a lightly sweet mead, you would have so much acid in this. It'd be like drinking a rare barrel.
Absolutely.
It'd be just sharp acidic. So the cool thing is, again, going back to the class, is it's all about balance of alcohol, tannins, sweetness, and your acids. And if you can do that, which this does.
Yeah, that's controlling the perception of sweetness.
Yeah.
So this would actually probably on the hydrometer scale show as sweet, but we never enter it as sweet because of that acidity, and it would get trashed in a sweet mead competition.
Yeah,
like the redheaded stepchild.
Right. Okay. All right. Well, then what about flavor? Brian, take us through a little bit of flavor here on this.
Yeah. So in the flavor on the mead score sheet, you want to look for the honey varietal, acidity, the tannins, alcohol, balance, the body. You talk about the body in the flavor section on the score sheet, which I think is kind of funny, but it does. The body does come into play. It's more about a wine like you're judging, where you're judging the structure of the whole thing together, and how the different elements play off each other. So the body is another part that comes into it. If you have a really full-bodied mead and it doesn't have enough other structure, acid and everything else to stand up to it, or sweetness, if it's just really dry, I don't know, it's going to play a lot differently. So yeah, I mean, I do get the bright strawberry, but right alongside that is a nice, really smooth alcohol, and a really nice orange blossom honey character, just a little perfumey, a little floral. And you get both of them in tandem. It's blending nicely, and the acidity you really detect a lot more in the flavor than in the nose. Sometimes something can smell like it's going to be tart or acidic, and it really isn't, that acidic. But to this one, to me, the flavor and the aroma match pretty well. It's like what you expect is what you're going to get, and there's not a whole ton of tannin in this, but I'm thinking that it's nice that all the acidity in this is coming from the fruit, and you had to put a ton of fruit in there to make that happen. It's just it makes me ask the question, how do you deal with all that fruit matter when you make I guess you're using puree, which probably helps, but concentrates. Sorry, not puree.
And you said 50 gallons, right?
So that's
wow.
It equates back to 300 gallons of regular juice. So we're using 600 gallons of juice in a 1,000-gallon batch, and there's not a lot of water or anything else. So let's see, it's 275.
So interesting.
150, about 150 gallons of honey, and what did I say? 600, so 750, so 250 gallons of water only in this batch.
Wow.
And all that tannin structure you're tasting is from the fruit. So we don't add tannins to our meads either. I wouldn't even know how to start.
Yeah, it is there. I mean, there is a tannin-esque sort of cleansing of your palate too, which I'm sure is the acidity.
The rhubarb
as well.
is contributing that to, if it was just, we do make a strawberry mead, but if it was just on its own, where, I wanted that punch and that bite to come from the rhubarb. And when we made this with wildflower honey, it didn't have that liveliness that you feel, like it feels so light on your palate. With wildflower honey, it felt a little more thicker, a little more less interesting. So we only made one batch with the wildflower, and everything since then has been with orange blossom.
Wow.
And this is the only fruit mead I make with orange blossom.
Okay, interesting. All right.
I was excited when I saw the bottle because what's my favorite pie in the world? Strawberry rhubarb pie.
There you go, man. All right. Well, on this score sheet, I'm seeing a form for stylistic accuracy. What do we think about that? I mean, I don't want to sit here and judge Michael's mead in front of him, but is this hit what is the melomel? Is that the category?
So it's actually a classic commercial example of the M3A fruit and spice mead.
Oh,
so
well, there you go.
It's listed in there.
Okay, should that be
M3A.
stricken from the record now? Should we call Gordon
You
and
could
have
go
him
either
yank
way
it?
with that.
Mhm.
It just
Gordon's
depends on
gonna
your
remove your
definition
points
of
now.
rhubarb.
Yeah. Yeah, go ahead.
But yeah, what is the spice?
That's the rhubarb.
The rhubarb.
Yeah, the spice is like a rhubarb.
Yeah. So like
yeah.
I said, if you were to go the melomel route, you might have a hard time trying to convince a judge rhubarb is a fruit because it's actually like celery.
Mhm.
You know, it grows and looks like celery. It's just,
Big.
but you know, it's a coin flip in my world. But
It's the tomato argument. Is it a fruit? Is it a vegetable?
Yeah, it's a
Right.
weird. Like we used to grow it. My mom, in Minnesota, would make rhubarb pies and all this stuff too. And it treated it like kind of like a fruit, but it does. Yeah, I guess technically it is adding a spice element here. So
Well, I think that's part of the roadblocks we run into as home brewers and people who are interested in the judging community. I'll lump myself into that too. That's how I do it. Is because the more you define something, the kind of then you run into something like a rhubarb. We're like, well, what is it? So you have to play that game, the judging game of how do you enter this, and then is it appropriate to the style? Which we do that on the beer show, on the beer side of things all the time with guests. Should this be spice, herbal, vegetable beer, or should this be I don't know, whatever
where
the
do you
alternative
put
is.
coffee or cocoa or
Right.
things like that?
Right.
Yeah, it's like,
Yeah. All right. Well, let's do this. We're going to take a break. We're going to come back. We're going to open the next mead, which is the Desire. And Michael will walk through that a little bit more coherently, I think, through the score sheets, because we did sort of ramble a little bit. But it was all great information. And the fling is still tasting good. I'll say that, Michael.
thank you.
Still tasting great. Yeah.
Very
So
good.
hang on, everybody. We'll be right back. This is Dr. Homebrew. Stay with us.
Hello, fellow BNers. This is Sully from the 21st Amendment Brewery located in San Francisco, just 2 blocks from Giants Park. Before Nico and I opened the 21A and before I was a professional brewer, I homebrewed on my small 4-burner apartment stove in a back house in Santa Monica, California, making my extract brews before graduating to the daunting idea of all-grain brewing. Homebrew books and information was hard to come by back then. The internet hadn't been invented yet, along with other things we take for granted today, like electricity and potable water. One thing I wish I had back then when I was learning was a radio show that could teach me the ins and outs of brewing and answer questions that I had about homebrewing, a resource for making great craft beer. The 21st Amendment Brewery is excited to be a proud sponsor of Dr. Homebrew, a great show that teaches you what you need to know about making incredible beer. Good stuff. Listen up, you might learn something. I certainly did. And thanks for your support. Tasty Crack Games.
Dr. Homebrew, please report to the ER for code blue. Dr. Homebrew to the ER, please. No, and your tea time has been moved to 2:30.
All right, thanks for sticking around, everybody. I'm about to pop the synthetic cork of the Desire mead. Michael, what's up with the Desire? Tell me a little bit about this mead and maybe what category it would be in.
Yeah, so this is clearly a melomel. It's a black currant, blueberry, and black cherry. This is the mead I started my company with. So way back in 2009, I won a Best of Show competition with this mead out of 253 entries in the competition.
Wow.
And
it's like IPA numbers, dude. That's crazy.
So we've behind our apple pie, this is our second bestseller that we've always made. And this is one of our flagships. So it's distributed to 38 states in this country. And we have exported to us in Hong Kong, Canada.
Speaking of apple pie, I just had a quick story because I'm wearing my BNA 7 shirt.
I saw that
from Seattle 2012, and the picture in the background here is from us hanging out at that party at Elysian in Seattle, and just there was we were enjoying the party, listening to the music, hanging out, and then I don't believe I'd ever met Michael before, but this guy's wandering around with a bottle of Kurt's apple pie, but no corkscrew to be found anywhere. Just asking, a couple people, do you happen to have a corkscrew? Like
now I remember it when you mentioned the whole corkscrew thing.
And then so there was something to do with car keys, and I remember I think we could do something here. We could just get a car key down in there and wedge it up a little bit, and eventually we got that cork out of there, and the mead was shared, and there were a lot of happy people. There was much rejoicing.
Yeah, I think we actually got the cork into the bottle.
You pushed it in, yeah.
And it worked. Yeah, it worked fine.
It didn't hurt it. It was just So that
a lot of good memories at the B&A parties over the years. That's for sure. I think my Russian Imperial Braggot, sour Braggot, was a crowd pleaser for many, many years.
Oh, for sure. Absolutely. Well, hope we'll get to do one again.
Yeah, I'm happy to be doing it with you guys.
Absolutely.
I just got a personal invite to Pete Schlossberg's birthday over in Belgium coming up this summer.
Oh, nice.
Holy cow.
Yeah, dude, I am I am over the moon. So Pete and I got to present at the I think it was Argentinian homebrewers conference or Belgian or some conference back, and we spent a week in a private hotel talking and beer and shop and everything, and became friends. And to go celebrate his 70th birthday or 72nd now is something on my bucket list, and we'll make it happen.
Nice. Pete's
That's really
dude.
awesome.
All right, Desire. So this is, you said, a mellow.
Yes,
true mellow. Okay. And
so this is sweet category.
Okay.
So it's going to have a rich sweetness. You got a lot of complexity coming from the fruits. So on the clarity, again, crystal clear. Just a bouquet of fruits coming rich right up from the sweetness is there. Not a lot of spicy alcohol notes, so no fusel alcohol.
Yeah, and the sweetness in the aroma is noticeably different than the fling.
Yes.
Yeah, it's much more darker, sweeter aromatics.
And if on each of our bottles, you'll see we have a little sweetness scale on the side to kind of give customers a guidance of where to expect it and where to think it's going to lie. So not quite dessert like sweet, but it's got a lot of flavor on it.
My first whiff of aroma reminded me of just red wine, just simple, until then I took it in and I got all the rest of the complexity, but it just jumped at me.
What holds this mead together is the currant, right? So the currant gives you a lot of red wine-esque like components. The cherry's kind of the bridge between the blueberry and the black currant, but all three of the fruits really tie in to add texture and structure to this mead. So again, sweet, but not overly sweet. Really, the perception might be even a little bit drier than where we have it indicated. But, this, when I've literally seen customers taste this at a tasting I've done across the country, look at my distributor, start handing her bottles of wine out of the cart. And he's like, well, what do you mean? I don't work. And I'm like, look at them, I'm going to take the bottles, because the next thing they're loading the cart with my product. I'm like, here's a lesson. If somebody offers you to take bottles out of their cart, you take them. That means ours are going back in that cart.
Right.
We strive for that simplicity, of that smile in the eyes of. I bring this to homebrew conferences, local beer homebrewers events for probably close to a decade, and everybody was like, oh, where can I buy this stuff? And I'm like, yeah, I'm never gonna make a living doing this, and now I've got 10 employees.
Well, it's looking at the bouquet and the aroma on the score sheet, there's the section for complexity, low, medium, high. I would consider this high complexity aromatics. Yeah. That'd be fair.
So there's a lot of fruit going on, right? So
there's a ton more esters going on in the aroma for sure.
I love the tannins from the skins of the currants and these darker berries. Give it that nice little squeaky tooth tannic character to it.
Yeah, I think you can even get a hint of that in the aroma, which is weird.
So Kurt Stock, one of the HomebrewCon conference mead makers of the year way back in the day, came out with this recipe, and he called it his triple berry. So I wanted to call it triple berry when I created it. Berry's not a berry. You can't call it triple berry. I'm like, what the hell? Really? So cherries or fruits don't have pits, or berries don't have pits. So you can't call a cherry mead a berry.
Huh. Okay. I mean, well, what's weird is the coffee bean, the fruit around a coffee bean is called the berry. So go figure that out.
Right.
Yeah. We're just roasting the seed of a coffee plant and calling it coffee, but so whatever. Anyway.
I didn't think Kurt Stock made anything as light as 14%.
His might have been closer to 18, but there's taxation involved. So 14's a nice light number on the tax wallet.
Yeah.
But if you think about this mead and you think about the flavors, so how I try to describe this to sommeliers and such is think of it like a port, right? So the complexity of a port wine, you don't have to drink a lot, so you can, and with meads, they don't oxidize quite as fast as like a red wine. So you can open that bottle and share it and come back to it if you want. They don't usually last beyond an hour here at my house, but we've had opportunities to have bottles opened and recorked for months on end.
I think I would love this with just a decadent, rich brownie. You've had pork and brownie pairings before. That's so fun, and this would work with it in the same way. The flavors are very bold.
Or a seared duck breast with this.
All right, remember we're mead judging, guys. We're not preparing shit for Paxton.
It's making me hungry, JP.
Damn, I know.
We're gonna pivot to Dr. Duck Breast, and that'll be people will send us their favorite duck breast stuff they prepared. That'll be great.
Please,
but no, you talk about red wine, Michael, and I really when I first had a sip of this, and part of it was the color because it's so deep purple, but it really reminds me of a Syrah because it's got the dark purple color. It has the tannin, which not like a rough tannin, like a really young Syrah, but more like an older Syrah. It's got that kind of currant flavor that a Syrah has. And it's really, I could easily pick this up and drink this instead of a Syrah and be very pleased and very happy with my choice. But it's kind of, to me, maybe in that ballpark.
Yeah. So what you're picking up on is, similarities, right? So what makes a wine buyer want to try my mead? So this is why, we've talked to the country, don't put us in the wine aisle, put us in the beer aisle, because wine buyers aren't looking for mead. Beer buyers are more trained to think about, possibly new styles, something I might want to try, judge, or, change my palate with. And there was an account in Denver. They did a test with a section in the beer section and the wine section. I'm not sure exactly how they managed this, but they found out that the beer section sold 10 times more than the wine section.
Damn.
No shit. That's pretty interesting.
Wow.
Ours is in the wine section though, Brian.
Yeah.
Right?
Total Wine. Oh, Total Wine is
they put it next to the dessert.
Very definitive in where they want to place things.
Yeah, it's a dessert wine at Total Wine. Yeah, I cracked up and I was telling my wife, like, this is not a wine, but here it is in the dessert wine right under the Tokais from Hungary. And the Sauternes. Yeah. Like, well, okay, it is where it is, but at least I found it.
Yep.
Yeah, and if you pick up my Wild, which is on the drier side, or Embrace, which is the driest one we make, in the dessert section, you're going to be sorely disappointed because they are not meant to be dessert wines.
But they still taste good.
Any of your meads, Michael?
Yeah, no, I've never made a hop mead yet. I have shared some emails across the country with some famous sponsors of the Brewing Network about making a hopped mead kind of combo. But I like hops in my beer. I can't quite see the hop in the mead the way I like. We've got our brewery up and running now up here, and I've got my head brewmaster now. And I'm trying to get less and less into having to make it, and more into how to critique and coach. So with Mike Robinson being on board as my head brewer for Hidden Moon Brewing, we may use honey in beer, but I told them that is not, I don't want to be the force to dampen an artist's spirit. So I think of mead making like art, and the ingredients are so simple, but how do you achieve so much more from that simplicity? Like, you could think, you've got a palette to paint with on a canvas. Well, my canvas is the yeast and the water that we use. And then all the flavors that I add to create the flavors are, real fruits or, concentrate, as the case may be. Sometimes we're using real fruit, but it's 6 pounds of fruit per gallon. So 1,000-gallon batch of mead is 6,000 pounds of blueberries, and it's a lot of biomass. The chicken or the cows or pigs are pretty happy when they get all the spent blueberries. But,
sure, absolutely. Well, I think those brighter melony, new school sort of German hops would be kind of good, like a Huell Melon or something in a nice mead. But I get what you're saying. I think I agree with you. I wouldn't necessarily want to be. I don't think you want to keep the two sides separate. You don't want to be the gimmicky brewery that's attached to the meadery who uses honey and everything like that. You know what I mean? You do want the brewery to stand on its own.
Other than the braggots, which
other than
are
yeah, of course,
to begin with.
Yeah, for sure. But
but it's still it's a dangerous place to play in, right? So when we use the word braggot on a label, we're trying to educate people. Consumers don't really want to be educated, not often. So the word braggot scares people away from our IPA.
That's true.
So when we launched our IPA in 2020, we had total wine authorization nationwide. I couldn't sell half of what we made because my distributors, it was pandemic, but didn't want yet another IPA. And so this is why we're flipping the game, right? We're gonna make a destination brewery where people come to me to buy what they want. And I'm not gonna put my beer in the market. I'm gonna keep it here, and I've got 15-mile views of mountains up the Suncook Valley, here in New Hampshire, and with a 100-acre spot, we're going to build a pretty elaborate brewery winery space. But I want to make beer for here. I've done this for 12 years, and I've seen distributors come and go, and I think we've worked with over 80 in the last 12 years.
Wow!
And it's not an easy game. And the big boys don't play even, right? So I teach people the best about what I make. Let them try it, right? And we can watch people come into the store and spend on average $65 per couple on mead, and then become loyal fans. I was at a gas station this morning, and this guy comes running over. He goes, "Hey, is this your truck?" I'm like, "Yeah." He goes, "You're the owner of Moonlight Meadery?" I'm like, "Yeah." He goes, "I love this stuff." I'm like, "All right."
I'm drinking it right now, motherfucker.
I just happen to have some in my trunk that you purchased.
I've been on Southwest Airlines, and the stewardess has come up to me and said, "We got bottles of your meat in the back, taking them home to my mother." And and I was on the phone to my insurance company, somebody recently, maybe a power company or something. And she goes, "You're like a rock star." And I'm like, "Oh, shut up. Just leave me alone. Not famous. You've got to read my name tag to tell me who I am. That's not fame."
Right. Well, Shar, you were saying real quick, this sort of reminds you of a Syrah in the color. And it's like a little bit lighter than that, like a Beaujolais maybe. But when you're talking about color on a mead, and you're trying to judge it, what is an inappropriate color? Because there is a checkbox for inappropriate, and I don't know. I mean, would you ever do that? Is that something to look out for?
So if you entered a traditional mead and it was this color, that would be inappropriate.
Okay, all right, I see.
Okay. So I mean, it's really having run Mead for Your Die and other competitions, it's pretty rare. It's usually a software glitch of some kind where the entrant doesn't understand what's being asked, or the information doesn't get to the judges. And for some reason, mead seems to be the hardest category or style of beverages to get content to the judges that's relevant. And I don't know why that's the case, but I've seen it, time and time again.
Well, there's so much you already have to provide. Is it dry? Is it medium or sweet? Is it a sack or hydromel or standard? Still, petulant or
declare
sparkling.
your honey variety, declare your fruit additions if it's a melomel.
Yeah. And a lot of it doesn't matter, right? So it shouldn't be as a drinkable. Checkbox.
It's the color that it is. Yeah, if this was presented as an apple blossom traditional, it's not the color will be inappropriate. But
it is not water white.
I've also
water white. What does that mean? What's water white?
So that's a color of honey. So there's like 7 colors, I believe, for honey, and it ranges from water white to almost jet black, like the buckwheat honeys can be.
Oh,
and
it's the amber scale. Light.
Yeah, PFUND.
It is literally it's fun. I've got it right here.
Okay, interesting.
I'm always in for fun.
That's right. That's right.
There it is.
Nice. That's 2,
cool.
4, 3, 7. I was right. Woohoo!
Well, you do know your
old
shit,
man still remembering something.
That's right.
Pafund.
Well, I mean,
it is pafun.
What do we think about this mead for judging? Is it to the style? I mean, it sounds like it is. It hit, it's got the berry notes in it. It's not, inappropriate for style. It's not water white. See, I learned something too. I think it would.
This
fit,
is a high
right?
40s. This is a high 40s mead in anybody's book, or they don't know what the hell they're talking about.
Michael, when you drink your meads, do you turn off the judge in you, or do you automatically mentally assign all your meads a score because it's by habit? I would do that.
Well, it depends if it's the first time I'm trying them or if it's just relaxing to enjoy. So, when my staff bring me up a sample of a new batch that we got going, I don't usually make test batches, right? So what I'm doing is thinking about flavor. So we make one called No Need to Argue. It's a cranberry mead named after the Cranberries album. And, I love cranberry, right? And I'm like, I made a 500-gallon test batch. And it's, again, took a best of show at the San Diego International. And I'm like, not bad. It's good. It hits the marks, right? So I try to think about, working with customers over the last 12 years and seeing what customers like, I've really kind of fine-tuned. But homebrewers and HomebrewCon and being able to, I don't remember which HomebrewCon it was, but I kind of snuck in under the covers and had bottles under my shirts and stuff and popped up at an empty table. And next thing I had a line down the block. And, it's I really get high off of the reaction of my customers trying what I make. And that's why, I've always thrived and love supporting the Brewing Network is because it's the same thing. I go to a B&A party and I see so many of the Army show up and know me and have heard me on your podcast and stuff over the years. I mean, I think I attribute the Brewing Network to me getting into Australia, me going to Chile, me going to Argentina, being invited to Belgium. I mean, okay, yeah, sure, I make a good product, but the Brewing Network has definitely been,
Hey, JP, how come I'm not getting invited to Australia, dude?
Hey, man, I don't know. Yeah. You're not making a good product.
Where's my Chilean trip?
Yeah, make a better product, Shar. I don't know.
That's a good point.
Yeah,
but I've gotten to be fortunate enough to brew beer with Mitch Steele, Stone Brewing Company. Urban Chestnut in St. Louis, great friend of mine, Jamil Zanichev, at up in north of San Francisco,
Fairfield.
But I love brewing. I mean, I've always loved the concept. I mean, I've been judging beer and mead and cider since 1996. I mean, shit, my kids were 5, 4,
I was
5
graduating
years
high
old
school,
back
man.
then.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, Michael, are all of your test batches like 500? You say 500 gallons or 500 pounds, or do you? I mean, you're just so used to like brewing at scale, or do you sometimes do test batches that are like smaller, like a 5-gallon, 10-gallon batch?
So we make batches for my Lunar Society that are super small scale. Like that's just for them, really. But like the Monkey Bread and Monkey Business, which were 2 banana meads that we made, No, I just went for it. 500 gallons each, and we took a best of show at the Battle of the Burbs, and I won that on my birthday. So I walk into this beer festival, and I see this huge trophy. It's like 4 feet tall. I go, "What's with the trophy?" And they go, "Oh, it's for the brewer that wins tonight." I said, "Well, what if it's not a brewer?" And they go, "That ain't going to happen." And I walked out with that trophy. So put me up against a beer any day, or mead or cider. And, I'm a competitive person, and I love to win. And I do what I do, and I have done what I've done because I care about flavor, and people see that passion in me, and they see, it's hard to, I don't know what makes, certain people to the top of their game, and I realized over the years that people consider me at that level, and it's really humbling. It's hard on my heart to think about that I'm given this kind of accolades for doing something that I love.
Maybe it's the triple cream brie.
Yeah, it's good.
Yeah.
We bring in Amish cheeses for our tasting room.
Why wouldn't you?
Oh my God, that sounds amazing.
Is involved.
Is there like an Amish population in New Hampshire? Or do you get them from Pennsylvania or what?
Pennsylvania.
There you go.
So they sent me a sample block, and I think I've spent probably $20,000 on cheese over the last 2 years. And it turns into money because people love it.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, we're going to take another quick break. We're going to come back. We're going to wrap things up. We're going to let Michael go. Michael, thank you very much. For Moonlight Meadery, website is what? moonlightmeadery.com, I guess?
Yeah, that's right. And we have an online store, so we can ship it directly to you, or go search your local craft beer store.
Hell yeah. All right. Cool. Everyone stay tuned. This is Dr. Homebrew. We'll be right back.
The leader in affordable, high-quality kegerators is here. Introducing Komos, the kegerator designed with serious beer drinkers in mind. It features an all-stainless steel draft tower, a major upgrade over traditional chrome-plated brass towers, and Komos keeps your new tower cold with their air-cooled tower fan, wrapping your beer lines in frigid coolness. Your beer is poured from innovative forward-sealing faucets that don't leak, so they stay cleaner for longer. Dual gas inlets on the rear of the fridge allow you to run both CO2 and nitrogen gas. Serve your beer with CO2, serve your kegged wine, or even cocktails with nitrogen. The digital temperature display has the largest range available, allowing you to use the Komos Kegerator for fermentation if you need to. And now Komos Kegerators ship with duo-tight draft fittings for that click-to-connect assembly we've all dreamed of. Buy direct from KomosDraft.com and receive free shipping on your order. That's KOMOS Draft.com.
I'm sorry to tell you this, but we're going to have to pour you out.
Back to Dr. Homebrew.
All right, thanks for hanging on, everybody. Hopefully you got some cursory mead judge information out of the show. This is the Mead Show with our special guest, Michael Fairbrother from Moonlight Meadery. In case you didn't know, in case you didn't catch on to any of that, Michael likes making mead. That's really what.
He does.
I don't know. John, you were saying about the pours of each of the meads.
Yeah, I love doing this, and I think Brian always made me do this. Was keep a little bit of all your pours of whatever you're doing, whether you're judging or what have you, and go back to the one you had earlier and taste it again, because you're going to have a little bit different perception on what that was all about, because your taste buds have warmed up to the concept of drinking something other than beer or whiskey or whatever you normally drink.
Yeah.
And it's so fun to go back to this rhubarb one now and just get that brightness off of this rich berry desire, which is, I mean, they're both fantastic, but
I'm smelling the empty glasses and I'm getting more like the focused honey, and the one in the fling is a little bit. It's a lighter smelling honey, and the desire is more of a darker smelling honey, and just that in and of itself, it's like everything, all the other fruit additions sort of go away, and you're sort of left with the essence of mead, which is the honey. And I know the flavor impacts from what's in it and whatever, but I get more of the honey aromatics now just off the dried mead off the glass. It's very interesting.
Makes sense.
And as it warms, it starts lingering in the aftertaste a little more too. Definitely.
Yeah, and I think that can help you if you're judging also. Maybe you rinse out a glass or whatever and have a little bit, residual left over for the end. I don't know how it works, but you can really get all aspects of the product at
one of
different
the interesting things about judging at wine competitions is that they give you carrots in between to kind of clear out your palate.
Really?
Yeah, it's really hard to judge like 300 wines in one day, all the same style. But I've been trained as a BJCP judge, so entering into the world of wine judging and being given carrots, I'm like, my teeth are purple. Really? What difference?
Here's 300 wines and a bushel of carrots. Go nuts!
Right.
That sounds kind of fun.
Yeah,
but
absolutely.
you don't swallow the wine as much as you do in beer judging.
Yeah, but it's still you still get pretty intoxicated.
Oh yeah, I can imagine.
Contact toasted.
Yeah, fingernails are orange by the end of the day, right? From the carrots.
You've never seen it. It looks like the Dawn of the Dead with people at the end of the event.
Yeah. All right, everybody, we're going to take off. Thanks very much. If you want to get your beers on the show, email brian@thebrewingnetwork.com. Now I feel confident that we could do mead officially on the show. So, mead, cider, kombucha, whatever you want. Whatever you want to judge, we'll figure it out.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you, man. All right, everybody. We'll see you later. And, I don't know.
Keep brewing.